Welcome back, everybody. My name is Gregtech, and this is Gregtech New Horizons. So when I left off at the end of the last video, I had everything prepped to make the cutting machine, so I went ahead and actually finished making it. I then went and cut the monosilicon boule into the original wafers, and I used some of those to make enough diodes in order to craft my advanced extruder. So with those two things done, I now just need to complete the quest by making all of the casting molds. Now, I have done that. Hang on, sorry. One thing I want to do before I end up forgetting, and that's to get this guy set up right there. They're probably not in the right order, so I'll fight with that in a little bit. But in my inventory itself, you can see I have all of my casting forms that I need for this quest. In here, I have the 72 ingots ready to go. So we'll just start this one by one and get these casting molds made. So just take some molten steel plus these guys, and it just takes a little bit of time. So 4 ingots each for each of these things. There are 18 casts, which is why I need the 72 ingots. It's a crazy amount. It is just over a stack of steel that you're going to need in order to make all this stuff. So, you know, it's quite resource intensive, but having the having these extruder molds made is really nice, especially for that one that I just put in. I believe that is the rod, and that will get you out of having a whole lot of steel dust left over by having to make rods in the lathe. Some of the things you can make in a fluid solidifier, but a lot of the stuff right now you need an MV fluid extractor first, and I don't have one of those yet. But the quest line leads you to making the extruder, which then leads you to making all 18 of these different casts, and then having them in your inventory all at the same time just so that it can actually make them. There he is. Okay. Just checking on my Steve's cart, making sure he's still running around making, getting the tree parts. Oops. Well, I guess I'll get to stick that one back in and hope I have enough lava to make that. Let's do that. Throw that back in there. Hopefully that's enough lava to get it to melt down. And just keep on with each of these guys. It takes a little while. It takes a lot of your wire cutter and file in order to get these guys. And I mean, there's a huge list of them. If you actually go to, what are these guys called? Casting forms. There is a lot of them. I don't know exactly how many that is. I do know that you don't need all of them, but it is a little bit more difficult to know which ones you need outside of opening up the quest book, clicking on each of these guys, then clicking on that and seeing where you need your wire cutter and file in order to make each of those. So it does take a little bit of time, but well worth the effort since you're going to need all of this stuff. Yeah, it looks like I should be good. It might just have to let it sit there a little while and wait for that last one to be done so that I can get the last cast made. That's all right, though. As I say, well worth it. There is one quest that you get a few of these blank molds, and I usually am taking those and melting them back down for this quest. I think I had 3 at the end of one of the videos that were left over from making like the ball mold or something along those lines. So you do get a few, but then the rest of it you'll have to just melt down some of your precious steel from like the BBF. I need to get some more iron into that thing and get it going some more. in order to get some more steel, because I am down to, I think it's 100 ingots. I might be a little less than that, 90 something. There we go. There's the block. And then this one I think is the huge pipe. We'll see. Yeah, the huge pipe. So there we are. And as I run back into base, there it is. Quest complete. Extrude all the things, because all it needs is the extruder and then all 18 of these guys in your inventory. Now I need to find a place to put it. That's going to be interesting. Don't really have a good spot for 18 molds to go. I guess maybe I'll just have to make a new chest. Let's do that. Come in here, grab that, grab that. Yeah, I'm lazy. I could have an 8 and make it in the assembler, but I haven't yet. So there we go. We'll slap that there and throw all these guys into it. There we go. So there's all 18 of those that works with our advanced extruder. So let me run you through my setup. I don't know if I ran through it precisely enough. I have 11, these 4 here, these 3 here, and then these 4 that are 1, 2, 3, 4. All of those guys are rigged up with conveyors and pumps, and the conveyors run over here to a high pressure steam compressor, whereas all the creosote with the pumps runs down here into this liquid fuel boiler. It is a 2x2x3 high and a 3x3 2 high for the solid boiler. And when you start off from scratch, so I was letting it run and I didn't realize that I had turned off my Steve's cart, and so I ran out of wood, which means I ran out of all of this stuff, which means that I then ran out of all the fuel for both the creosote fuel and the solid fuel for running these guys, and they ran down. So what you're seeing here, it's been running for a couple of hours now, just slowly building up the creosote oil, so it's just a little bit of a surplus of creosote oil once this guy is fully heated. And then as you can see, this guy has 8 blocks in it now, so it slowly increments up as it keeps all of those things empty and provides enough steam to come in here. Now the amount of steam that it provides is 10 times, there's 18 here and 12 there, so 10 times 30, 300 steam per tick, which is 6,000 steam per second. And when you convert that through 4 steam turbines, you end up with 3 3/4 amps of LV. When you run it through a voltage transformer set into step up mode, it gets you about 120 EU at 1 amp. So it's just enough to run the EBF or any of these guys in their highest power setting. I don't think I've seen anything go above the 120. It's always, it's always at 120, or you're then into HV. It's never right at 128. So this setup perfectly provides enough steam through these steam turbines in order to run basically any of my setup. Now, you might be asking, well, what about losslessness? As I said before, I made a whole bunch of these redstone alloy cables, which are lossless, and they run over to the EBF as well as down and around. This is the last one, and then it gets to a tin cable, which is how I was running these guys before. I had that pipe that ran down and up, and I had 3 steam turbines across here, and that powers my LV wall. Well, running the 4 into this 110 cable basically made it so that this thing is acting as though the 3 of them are here. There's a little bit more loss on the top wire and the middle wire than there is on the bottom wire, but that is okay for right now, just trying to get all of this set up and running. I finally reached the point where I am ready to start duplicating machines. Namely, what I want to duplicate is another fluid extractor and another assembling machine. And the reason for that I put over here on my second page. If I take the centrifuge, one of the assemblers, I can automate making the raw rubber and glue. And then if I get a chemical reactor and fluid solidifier, I can make the raw rubber. I may end up duplicating these guys as well so that I've got one, but with me in the MV quest line now, I already need to make an MV chemical reactor for some things, so I probably won't duplicate that. Making another fluid solidifier, it would be nice to have an MV fluid extractor and an MV fluid solidifier, so this guy really can stay for making the regular rubber. And then I have the LV electrolyzer, which I no longer need because I have the MV electrolyzer, so that will get me an automated setup for hydrogen and oxygen. And then if I make another centrifuge, and I probably need to make another compressor. Right now my compressor's main thing is for either compressing coal coke or compressing wood pulp into the wood stuff that I need to make circuits. So having another compressor would be nice. Need another centrifuge so that I can centrifuge compressed air, and that will get me the nitrogen. But all of that can be done in LV, which takes a minimal set of LV machines. And then I can start running around some more of the lossless cable to those machines and be able to run all of that semi-automated through this setup. I am considering making some LV, some other extractors, some of the other LV extractors, in order to start taking charcoal and making the coal tar and then distilling it in an MV distillery into benzene and start getting a benzene setup going, but I haven't quite decided on that yet. That is probably what I'm going to use for my MV fuel, since this guy barely keeps up with 1 amp. I thought I would use all of these things. I guess that's kind of a waste of material. I do use them to take coal and make it into the coal coke that I can then make more steel with. So it is useful, but it's not part of my automated setup for keeping all this stuff going. So, yeah, I just have a few miscellaneous machines. The couple of forestry machines are sitting over here. My distillery, my basic assembling plant, canner for making the batteries, mixer for making the red alloy, things along those lines. So yeah, this will probably change at some point in this video as I start duplicating and making small automated setups. And as I've said before, I really want to get into Project Red. I was basically waiting on Project Red because it wants the long iron rods. And so now with the extruder, I can make the rods real easy. 1 ingot, 2 rods, take those rods, slap them into the forge hammer and make the long rods in order to start making these item transport pipes. And then as I go through the rest of the quest line, I will finally get a drawer controller, and we can start making a whole mess of drawers that will start housing our automated item setup. So yeah, lots of work ahead of me. I will see you guys back here once I have something a little bit further along. Okay, I don't have a lot of progress really to show you guys, but I do have a bit of an update. I've gone ahead and made the LV extruder and the basic forming press. I made the LV extruder because I was under the impression that it was going to open up some more stuff, and sure enough it did. I needed that in order to get to the magnalium quest, which allowed me to get a decent upgrade for my crossbow. So now I have a decent crossbow. It's got quite a bit of durability. With the arrows I currently have, I've got 8 hearts of damage plus an extra 5 for critical. So getting the crossbow upgraded was a big boon. The other thing I have done is I went about gathering the materials for and smelting up the electrical steel, conductive iron ingots, and pulsating iron ingots. And I have everything necessary to do the dark steel ingots. The only thing I'm waiting on for that is the oxygen. I used up quite a bit of the oxygen earlier making some other things, so I am waiting on the last little bit of this oxygen to complete. So there's 4. There's 1 more that'll be crafted up, and that will get me my 33 oxygen to make that dark steel dust. So I've been going through and coming up with the hard decision of whether I continue with this Steam setup, excuse me, or if I switch things around. I am very strongly looking towards moving this setup to a Benzene setup. I did Benzene in the previous season, but it is a very powerful fuel. I did some calculations, and each one of these blocks of charcoal lasts a pretty good amount of time, but if I were to instead keep the charcoal as the individual little charcoal here and start using a fluid extractor to extract wood tar, and then for every 2 of those things putting it into a distillery and getting out the benzene, I could power a bigger setup, and that's going to become necessary as we start getting more and more MV machines. I'm going to end up making an MV engine of some kind. I could make it a steam turbine, but again, I'm feeling at the limit for steam at this point. So realistically, I should start looking to moving to something else. I could go as far as making the bronze large boiler, but I don't know that I really want to go that route. So I am again leaning towards benzene. I did the bronze boiler for a little while when I had a pyrolyzed setup in my first season. So I think I'm going to end up skipping that and going straight with the benzene. The leftover creosote can be turned into lubricant, and I am looking forward to reaching HV so that I can do this ore drilling plant. It needs these EV chips and titanium, so and the electric motor, so that's probably not even feasible at HV. But I will need lubricant for those things. It'll also go well for the cutters, in addition to needing it for any more of the power hatches that go into the multi-block setups. One last thing to show you guys, a couple of last things here. I blocked off the top of my smeltery so that I could throw in some ender eggs and get liquid ender. I needed one of those, I needed 9 of the ender pearls in order to facilitate this right down here. I have a mob farm-ish. It's got a pair of the open block fans. It runs over to this, and under here, as you can see, is a vacuum hopper, and it outputs the XP into this low voltage fluid tank. So I did finally unlock the fluid tank. It took me a while to remember that you need to do the iron tank under Steam, and then you get access to the ULV tank, and then that unlocks a quick quest line off of the pump here for the LV tank and the MV tank. The MV tank I haven't made because it needs the dark steel plates, which I'm in the middle of making. So once I get the dark steel plates, that will get knocked out, and then hopefully that will unlock the MV quests for the tanks there, namely the HV fluid tank, and then from there the super tank. And the super tank will be very helpful. I went ahead and crafted the basic assembling machine, fluid extractor, centrifuge, and compressor that I will use along with some of these other machines in order to make a couple automated setups for getting hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and then also being able to split this guy out so that I have one assembler that deals with tin or soldering alloy in order to do things like the vacuum tubes, and really I think the vacuum tubes are the biggest thing. And then having a second one that can take the refined glue from the centrifuge. The centrifuge can pass along the raw rubber to make actual rubber, while the raw glue or the refined glue can go in here, and I can use that in order to make the phenolic boards, the circuit boards and the resistors, and that will power up that setup and kind of automate that process so that I'm not having to yank out this fluid extractor, bring it over here, slap it on next to the circuit assembler and do stuff with it. I can instead put the circuit assembler and one of the assembling machines next to one of these guys. That way I can do the tin and soldering alloy, and then another one will be there for let's see here, the other fluid extractor. Trying to remember what I wanted a second fluid extractor for. I know I needed another compressor and another centrifuge. I may have a leftover fluid extractor, in which case that will definitely go towards making a benzene setup. 11 coke ovens makes about 1 coal every 8.2 seconds, and it only takes 6.4 for a fluid extractor to extract the wood tar that can be sent to a distillery in order to make the benzene. So that's pretty much a nice little setup there that I can just replace this boiler and start collecting up benzene and then starting to power with benzene. So yeah, going to start making power a little less dependent on pipes running steam, and instead I can focus on maybe using the item transport pipes here from Project Red in order to pass around benzene and just have power run around that way. That would be a nice change and get me some more power in the process. So I will leave this video here. In the next video, just looking forward to more progress into MV, and I'll see you then. Till then.